Welcome to the first ever Culture and Service Awards. My name is Chris Bahamondes, and I'm the Senior Portfolio Ambassador for Bacardi here in Canada. I'm delighted to be here with you guys tonight and to share a little bit about Bacardi and a little bit about our delicious brands and the delicious cocktails that they make. You know, not everyone knows this, but Bacardi is first and foremost a family name. It's a last name. It's the last name of a family that immigrated to Cuba and started an amazing rum company with incredible history. And after that, it's the name of a company that's the largest family-owned spirits brands in the world. And we own incredible brands like Grey Goose, Bombay Sapphire, Patron, Tequila Cazadores, Dewar's, Martini, Saint Germain. The list goes on and on. And so I'm delighted to get to share all of those different brands with you tonight, or at least some of them, in some amazing cocktails. But before we kick off the festivities, we do need to get a drink into your hands. Now we've got cocktails and we've got mocktails, so everyone's covered tonight. This evening, it's about you. It's about celebrating your hard work, the accomplishments of you and your colleagues. So we'll get the show on the road, and let's be sure to keep the virtual cheers going all night long. Now, in order to follow along with tonight's cocktails, you're going to need a couple things. You're going to need something that you can shake a cocktail with, whether it's an actual shaker or a mason jar or a water bottle, a reusable water bottle that you can fit some ice into. You'll need something to measure liquids, whether it's a shot glass or a small measuring cup or an actual jigger like this one. You'll need a bar spoon or some sort of way, a regular spoon even, just to mix your cocktails up a little bit. You're going to need plenty of ice, and that's one of my favorite party tips, and we are partying tonight, is that whenever you're celebrating with friends and having cocktails, get yourself some ice. Go to the store, get a bag of ice, because I promise you that one tray of ice that you have in the back of your freezer is not going to be enough for you and all of your friends to make delicious and amazing cocktails. So go get yourself some ice. And then beyond that, you're going to need the ingredients to make the cocktails, some glassware, of course, to put it in. But what you're going to need most importantly is the kit that you might have received to follow along with our first cocktail, the Humble Spice, right? Now, the Humble Spice cocktail kit that you have received came from Idea Hunter and Project Gigawater, which is an amazing cocktail bar in Toronto. And cocktail bars around the country and around the world are going through some incredibly hard times right now with, seeing so many restrictions placed on the hospitality industry. And so it's amazing that not only did you get this kit to follow along, but in so having this kit, you're supporting a business, a local business in Toronto that really needs it right now. So cheers to you for being part of the solution. Now, what we've got in the Humble Spice cocktail kit is your Bombay Sapphire. You've got some Humble Spice cocktail mix, which we'll talk about in a minute. And you've got some soda water and a dehydrated lime wheel. If you've got all those things, your ice in your glass, then we're ready to start making a cocktail. First thing we're going to do is start with 1.5 ounces of Bombay Sapphire. Now, we are starting with Bombay Sapphire in this cocktail, but if you're making the mocktail version, which I very much invite you to do, all you want to do is go ahead and skip this step. Don't add the gin. All you're going to do then is mix your Humble Spice syrup and your soda water in even proportions, lime wheel on the top, and you're ready to go. But for those of you enjoying a cocktail tonight, we'll add our Bombay Sapphire. Now we're going to do 1.5 ounces or 45 ml or 1.5 shots, depending on how you're measuring it, into the cup. And Bombay Sapphire, the way that it's made, it's very light and citrusy. And so it's going to blend perfectly in this cocktail with the Humble Spice cocktail mix. Now let's talk about that mix. What's going on in there? The cocktail mix that we have here, this Humble Spice, is a blend of different winter spices like cinnamon, anise, allspice, and they're also blended with lemon peel, lemon zest, right, and lemon juice. So it's just really an explosion of refreshing and delicious lemon with lots of beautiful winter baking spices. And that's going to blend perfectly with the Bombay Sapphire. And of course, the soda water is just going to bring it all to life and add some life to it, right? So we're going to go ahead and add 1.5 ounces of Humble Spice cocktail mix into the glass right over the gin. Just like that. And then we're just about ready. All we're going to do now is add our soda water. 3 parts of this cocktail. It doesn't get much easier than that. The soda water is the dilution in this cocktail, as well as kind of bringing it all to life, adding some effervescence to it, making it extra enjoyable. Now we're going to mix it, but instead of mixing in a classic stirring motion, what we want to do is bring, the Bombay Sapphire and the cocktail mix from the bottom to the top and the soda water to the bottom. That way when we take a big sip, we're not just drinking soda water, or we're not just drinking gin, and we're not just drinking cocktail mix. We want a little bit of everything, right? So we'll just blend the cocktail just like this with the spoon. That's why these bar spoons are great. They're so long, they can get to the bottom of the Collins glass. Just like that, and we're all set. Last thing we'll do is garnish it with a dehydrated lime wheel right over the top. And dehydrated citrus is great because fresh citrus goes bad very quickly, but when you slice it and dehydrate it just like this, it'll last almost an infinite amount of time as long as you keep it in a dry spot, right? So in a tight mason jar or in a Ziploc bag, these dehydrated lime wheels will last a very, very long time. That's the Humble Spice cocktail. And again, if you wanted to make the mocktail version of it, all you do is go ahead and remove the gin, and you're gonna mix your Humble Spice cocktail mix with your soda water. Now that you've got one of these delicious cocktails, you're gonna go ahead and head over to the virtual photo booth either after the rest of the cocktails or now, and come back and take a picture of you and your cocktail so you can celebrate with your friends and kind of share just like we're out having a celebration, right? You know, normally at this time, this part of the year, right, we'd all be out celebrating, having big company parties, right? And so we've all had to change the way that we work together. And virtual photo booths are a great way to kind of get to hang out and celebrate and have a little bit of those fun feelings and times like we would before COVID. It kind of changed everything for all of us, right? So cheers to you. And here's me pretending to take my picture. So we'll go ahead and put that cocktail to the side, and let's go ahead and get started on our next cocktail, which is called Sparks Fly. Now, Sparks Fly is a combination of Grey Goose vodka, Saint-Germain, lemon juice, and Martini Prosecco. It's as close as possible to a cocktail called the French 75, which is a classic cocktail that typically uses either gin or cognac shaken with citrus and sugar and then finished with champagne or Prosecco or any other sparkling wine, right? It's a delicious, refreshing cocktail. It's a classic cocktail. You can get it at most good bars around the world. And if you've never had a French 75, I implore you to do so. But tonight we're gonna make the Sparks Fly cocktail. And this is a great, kind of take on the French 75, a couple different modifications. Instead of using sugar, we're using Saint-Germain elderflower liqueur, right? Instead of gin or cognac, we're using Grey Goose vodka. And randomly enough, Grey Goose is actually a vodka itself whose heart is kind of in Cognac, France. Every part of Grey Goose vodka, the bottle, everything from top to bottom is made in France. It's made with only the best ingredients, French winter wheat, which gives it a really beautiful, crisp flavor, and it's distilled only one time, so it has this incredible body and viscosity to it. We'll shake that with the Saint-Germain elderflower liqueur, which is made with elderflowers picked at their prime, right? Actual elderflowers. It's got a base of wine as well, so it's light, it's beautiful. And then we'll finish that off with Martini Prosecco, which is, not the Martini Asti you may know from your parents or your grandparents, which was typically served as a dessert wine. This is a dry, refreshing Prosecco. It's a relatively new formulation, and it's going to work perfectly on the top of this drink. Now we're going to shake this drink, so if you have your mason jar ready or your reusable water bottle or your cocktail shaker, whatever you have, let's go ahead and get that. And again, you'll need your measuring apparatus, whether it's a shot glass or a measuring cup. Let's start. I'm gonna get my Grey Goose vodka here, and I'm gonna go ahead and do 1 ounce or 30 mil or 1 shot right into the tin. Now in the last cocktail, we didn't have any actual juice, right? We had that Humble Spice cocktail mix, but in this one, we are gonna be using lemon juice, and that's why we're gonna shake the drink. For the most part, almost anything using any kind of fresh juice, like citrus especially, we're gonna wanna shake it so that we can aerate the cocktail. Next step, some Saint-Germain. We're gonna do 1/2 ounce of Saint-Germain or 15 mil or 1/2 shot glass into the tin. There we go. And of course, I mentioned that citrus, right? That fresh lemon juice. Now, using fresh lemon juice when you're using any kind of lemon juice, right, or any citrus, you want to use fresh always because it really does make a huge difference. When you juice a lemon, right, the molecular compounds inside of it start shifting and changing almost immediately once they hit the air. And so it really is amazingly different when you use fresh citrus versus using something that's 1, 2, 3 or more days old, pasteurized, heated, or however, in whatever way, kind of made to be preserved and shelf stable. What you want is fresh citrus every time you're using it, and it'll totally change the flavor and feel of your cocktails. We're gonna add 1/4 ounce or 1/4 shot glass or 7.5 mil if you're using a measuring cup into the tin on this one. There we go. And we're ready to shake. So we'll take the tin and go ahead and fill it with ice. If you have your reusable water bottle or your mason jar, fill that up with ice. Hopefully you have enough ice still at the house. And we're gonna give it a good shake. Now seal your jar, seal your water bottle, seal your tin, and whatever you're gonna do, just make sure you do it like you mean it, right? A lackluster shake like this isn't really gonna do too much. And if you've ever had a cocktail at the bar that was shaken that way, you probably thought it wasn't very good. Shaking does a couple different things. First of all, it chills the cocktail. Second of all, it dilutes it. That's right, we're actually adding water into the cocktail on purpose so that we can bring everything into balance. You need a little bit of soft to kind of balance out the strong that comes from the spirit, right? And then the last thing we're gonna do is aerate the cocktail with a good shake. We wanna put air inside of the drink and kind of bring it all to life and make it, as happy as possible. So let's give it a good shake. And when you can feel your fingers almost falling off because of how frozen they are, that means it's pretty much done. We'll crack the tin, and what we're gonna do is strain the cocktail into the glass. Now, if you have a reusable water bottle at home, you're gonna wanna find some way to get the liquid out of there while not using the ice, right? So I've got an actual Hawthorne strainer here, one of these fancy cocktail strainers, and I'm gonna use that one to catch the majority of it, and then a second strainer, a fine strainer, or a tea strainer to catch the rest of those little pieces of ice so that I have a beautiful, purely liquid cocktail at the bottom here. Just like that. And then I did promise you bubbles and I won't let you down, right? So what we're gonna do is add our Martini Prosecco right over the top, 2 ounces of that. And I'm not gonna measure out my Martini Prosecco, I'm just gonna pour it right over the top. And you can see the beautiful reaction that it's having with the cocktail below. And the last thing we're gonna do is garnish the cocktail. Now we did use Saint Germain elderflower liqueur, right? It's made from actual elder flowers. And so we're gonna garnish our cocktail with a beautiful edible flower. I'm gonna go ahead and just pick a pretty one here out of my bunch and drop it right over the top, just like that. And there we go. Now, I said an edible flower, right? You wanna make sure you're using food-safe flowers whenever you're making a cocktail with actual flowers as the garnish, right? It doesn't mean that you want to actually eat the flower. It wouldn't probably taste very good, more like an onion or very bitter or spicy celery. But edible flowers mean that they're flowers that are grown without any pesticides, without any sprays or chemicals, and so they are food safe. And that's very important whenever you're garnishing food or a drink with a flower to make sure that you're not putting pesticides in people's food or drink and then letting them consume it. So make sure you are using food-safe flowers anytime you garnish something with a flower. But that's the Sparks Fly cocktail, garnished with a flower, Grey Goose, Saint Germain, shaken with lemon juice, and finished with Martini Prosecco. It's an incredible example of how all the different spirits in our portfolio can work together and make something that's amazing and definitely perfect for celebrating tonight. A little bit boozy too. Now, if you're just joining us, what you're going to want to do is make sure that you grab your recipe card so you can follow along with us. We have already gone through our Humble Spice cocktail, which is right here. Then we did the Sparks Fly cocktail right here, which is a delicious, boozy, celebratory cocktail. And now what we're going to do is move into the Saint Germain Spritz, right? Now, yes, we made a boozy celebratory cocktail, but what if you want to celebrate but not get too crazy? Spritz is a perfect answer to that. It's a little bit of a low ABV solution to having a good time, feeling great, but still definitely celebrating. It's made again with Martini Prosecco and of course its namesake, Saint Germain elderflower liqueur, and some soda water. It's a very simple cocktail to put together, 3 ingredients, finished with some citrus. So let's go ahead and get started. Now I've got my glass here. I've got a beautiful Saint Germain Spritz glass, but if you wanted to use a wine glass, that would absolutely be okay. Another tall Collins glass like we did for the Humble Spice, or even a rocks glass would be fine. But whatever you do, you're gonna wanna make sure that you have a nice glass like this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Now I've got my Saint Germain elderflower liqueur. I'm gonna add 1.5 ounces into the glass. And the next thing I'm gonna do is add 2 ounces of soda water. And then we'll go ahead and finish it off with 2 ounces of Martini Prosecco right over the top. Now, the Saint Germain is sitting all at the bottom because it's a little bit heavier. It is a liqueur. And so what we want to do is mix the cocktail the same way we did with the humble spice cocktail. So we'll just blend them just like this. And then we'll finish it off with the citrus zest. Now, this beautiful peel that I'm going to pull off of this lemon right here has a pith on the inside, which is quite bitter, but on the outside is full of these beautiful essential oils waiting to explode. And so take the pith side, right, and imagine that's a book that's been opened. What we want to do is close the book. And so we'll just squeeze it once, right over the top like that, over the rim, and drop it in. The Saint Germain Spirits is an amazing low ABV option for having a great time. Now, I want to say cheers to you, wish all of you the best of luck tonight, and congratulations to the nominees, the finalists, and the winners.